I want to build a pot from scratch, and therefore I need something to mold it around or use as a mold. In this case, I've got a ceramic flower pot and I'm covering it with some plastic. You can also cover it with newspaper or something similar. It just means that you need something between the pot and the clay that the clay won't stick to it. It won't stick forever, but it might stick for a while and then you will break your design. So I'm turning it upside down, and for now I'm going to start to mix up the clay amount that I need to cover this pot, but I can build it up in layers. I am mixing up a double amount of cement clay, so it's 2 cups of powder, about 80 ml of activator with 20 ml of water, and 80 ml of glue with 10 to 20 ml of water. The consistency of the clay mix, the powder, the activator and the glue must be similar to bread dough. If it's too sticky, add some powder. If it's too wet and it sticks to your fingers, then you need a bit of powder, and if it's too dry, you just add a bit of water. And keep on kneading until you have a smooth, workable clay. And you can look at it, it's quite smooth. If it still sticks to your hand, then you need to add a bit of powder. Now I'm working upside down to get the shape. So I'm going to place my clay all over, and remember I'm using it over the plastic that I've lined it out with. I have mixed some extra clay and I want to add it on there, and with cement clay you can build up in layers and add on later on. As it doesn't shrink, there's no problem to that. So I'm going to mix up some slip, and slip is only a bit of the clay powder mixed with a bit of the activator and glue up to the consistency of yogurt or mayonnaise, and it actually serves as a glue to get the two surfaces to stick together. So that could be dry and then you can still add to it, but at this moment it's like semi-dry, and I'm just going to continue building on my pot. I'm just adding a drop of water, and when it's too thin you just add more powder, and if it's too thick you just add a bit more water. Okay, so this looks good to me. I want to continue here on the side, so I will add my clay. That's a bit too much. I'm going to add some slip there and some slip on this side. And then I'm going to join the two, and I'm going to flatten it out that it becomes one. Just like that. When you are working hard with soft, then you would work from this side and then just smooth it out. But the slip is very important to get it to stick together. And even if you get a little crack like that, you can just fill it up with some slip and add a bit of clay over it. If you want it very smooth, you can use a sponge that is soaked in water and then just rub it out to get that very smooth surface. If you want a pattern in it, now's a good time to give it some texture or pattern, and you can just press it right into the clay. If you want a very rough look to it, you can just add the blobs on and don't work it off that it's smooth, and then you will get that very rustic rough look, maybe of bark or something similar, or rough cement. And you can decide, would you like a straight edge, you can cut it off, or if you want an uneven or a very rough edge, you can just leave it as it is. But anywhere where you want to add it, just see that you have some slip to join it. And smooth it out as you would like it to dry. When your clay is too heavy and too thick, it might slip down and make a crack, or it may separate. Then you can just support it or fix it later on with slip. Any cracks that appear, just fix it with some slip. And if it's a bigger crack, you can press in some clay with slip either sides and it would be perfect. Okay, this side looks good. I'm just going to... My pot is dry and I've added some slip to this side to give it a bit of a rough look, the real concrete aged look. And also the edge here is uneven. I think of just adding a little bit to it to maybe give it a better shape. And this has been dry for quite a while, so when we want to work on something like this, we would wet the area that we want to work in, or where we want to add, just with plain water. And then I would mix up some slip. It's just clay powder with some of the glue and activator until it's the thickness of peanut butter or yogurt. And that serves as our glue. So I'm going to add some there where I want to add the new clay. So I've mixed up some fresh clay and I want to work it in there. So I would form the clay, and then also where I want to fix it, I would also add some of the slip, which is a more wet medium than the normal clay, and I will work it in there. Because of the slip, it would stick to the dry part of the clay, so the wet and the dry can marry up. Other than in pottery clay, you can't add fresh clay to clay that's already dried. In this case you can, and it doesn't shrink, so you won't have cracks or marks there. The only reason you experience cracks or slight differences in there means are only that there's either too much water or too little water in it. But that's no problem. When you have a crack or something like that, you can just fill it up with a bit of slip. Just press it into the little crack or hole, smooth it out and let it dry, and then you won't even see it. So here I've still got a little dip. I'm going to add some of the slip. And then a little piece of clay. And I'm working it into the existing pot that it smooths out and that you can't see where it has been attached. On my pot, I'd like to add some flowers. And when making flowers and you want a 3D effect with some depth to it, I would suggest using the egg trays to dry them in. That is a shallow one, and this one is much deeper, and you can make different layers. So get a cookie cutter or anything that is round if you want to make these type of flowers, and I would press out the shape, and then maybe a smaller one as well. They are about 4 to 5 millimeters thick, and you can smooth out the edges with a bit of water, or you can leave it as it is. I would get the middle of the circle, press it in, and then if you want a curved edge, now is a good time to just press it a bit. Make it thinner in places and thicker in other places. And then I would lay it down in here. And now you can see you're having a bit of depth to this flower. You can curve and play around with it. If you would like any lines or texture in it, now is a good time to do it. And if it looks a bit cracky, that means your clay is starting to dry. Just smooth it out with either slip or a little bit of water on your finger. So maybe for the larger one, I'm just smoothing out the edges that it doesn't look so rough, because once dry you can't fix it unless you're using a Dremel or something similar to that, but we'd rather do it from scratch. Okay, so you can drape it over here, get the middle, draw in lines if you want to, but you can build this flower up in layers and add that one on top of this one once dry. And now you can make many petals and use them at a later stage as well, or layers to your flower. And you can also alter the shape of each layer by pressing in or pulling out or curving it. I've made some flowers, and here are ones that's a bit deeper, and these are a bit more shallow. And once they are dry, I can apply them to my pot, only using slip. I want to add my handmade poppies to the side of this pot, and they are dry and they are hard, and we also need to attach them with slip. So you will wet the surface where it must go, as well as the one that you're going to use. And then for this, they're quite heavy and they're quite big, and this is at an angle, so I will take some of the clay and moisten it a bit and add it up there. See that it sticks, and then get some slip on here and slip on there where I want to add it. If your clay is too hard and it seems that it's not absorbing your water, just rub it a bit, and then you can add your flower there, and it sits. So I'm just going to prepare each and every one of them. And there you can see they are sticking. If they have difficulty in staying on top, just support this pot until they are set, maybe for half an hour or so, and then they will stay in the position that you want them. I've added my flowers to my pot, and on the one side I have a very rough background where I put the 3, and on the other side I have the smooth background where I added the others. Now I'm going to paint it, the top part in a dark brown and the bottom in a white, creamy, broken white color, and then I'll do the flowers after that. I'm doing the base coat of the flowers in red, and then I'll add the black in the middle and the orange and white for highlights. All these flowers are painted red, and on the insides I'm doing it with a little bit of orange, just pulling it from the center outwards. If your paint is wet, you'll get another color, and if your red paint is dry, then you'll have a good feeling of the orange. Where the light paint and the brown connects, I'm putting some of the light paint on my finger and rubbing it in ever so gently. So where I still have some wet brown paint, it will mix up to a lighter brown, and where it is dry, it will give you the dry brush effect. And you can build it up in layers if you want a more white or light look, or you can leave some spots darker. So I'm just working it in with my finger and dry brushing over the areas. If you look up close, the dark brown will shine through and you'll see all the texture, and you'll go over it with a lighter color. My pot is done with a lot of texture and dark underneath and light over that. My flowers are painted. Some of them I did a bit of the brown mixed up with the red at the back for a darker shade, and for the orange ones I did a bit of the red on it, although you can't see it on the video. That's a pity. And when I'm done, I'm going to seal them off with either hard as nails, gloss varnish, 2 to 3 layers. You can also use Granny Bee Armor. That seals it off nicely. This is only a flower pot, so it can't keep water. So my suggestion would be to put another container on the inside with the flowers in it, and this just as the outside to show it off.